So as George mentioned, I head up economic development for the Chamber of Commerce, which really is the greatest job, I think, in the world. And what that means is anything to do with a job in the 10-county region is what we do. We care about job creation. We care about prosperity for every single person that lives in this region. And that has to do with recruiting companies to move here. So your Nissans and your Mars Pet Care. These days, it is probably even more about taking care of who is here. And I'll tell you a little story. I was in Fido Coffee House the other day, and I ran into a friend of mine who is the CEO of a company here in town. And he was having coffee with a young man, and I introduced myself. And he worked for the Columbus, Ohio Chamber of Commerce. And he was down in Nashville trying to recruit our companies to move to Columbus. And I was fairly polite, but told him to get back to Columbus. I think I may have used a little language with him, but it was a great example of how you really got to take care and appreciate your existing base because other people are knocking on the doors. So that piece of it, international business, entrepreneurship. So that's kind of my day job. So what people typically want to hear is, what's going on, right? How's Nashville doing? How are we doing versus competitors? How is the economy really doing? So I thought I'd touch on that today. And then I really wanted to spend just a few minutes talking about a new national marketing campaign that we launched exactly a month ago for Nashville. And it has to do with attracting not just companies, but people. And not just any people, but technology workers, because there is a shortage in America of tech talent, and it is a battle, and it is impacting the economy here. So I wanted to show this really amazing new marketing campaign. And then the most fun thing with this crowd is open it up for questions, so we'll do that really quickly. And I wanted to acknowledge my wonderful right hand, Katie Barton, is here. She is the, I'm just a figurehead with big blonde hair. Katie keeps it all going, so thank you. So if you take a look at who's looking at Nashville, what kinds of companies, the activity we're seeing is probably up 30 or 40% over where we were a year and a half ago. And you know, we like to think that Nashville is completely immune from all economic downturns, but y'all, the reality of it is it was fairly brutal a few years ago. And about 2.5 years ago, we had a year with 0 job growth. And I remember thinking, I never thought I would be proud to stand up and report 0 net gain. But that same year, Atlanta lost about 140,000 jobs net. Austin, Texas lost about 40,000. So a year where we stayed at 0 in the universe was not a bad year. But we have been coming back with a vengeance. And I got to tell you, you would have to be under a rock somewhere to not be caught up in this national discussion about Nashville. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And I know these slides, these are just kind of, I know you can't really read them, but what the graph shows you is it's a lot of, 20 years ago, a lot of manufacturing, right? So your Nissans, a lot of call centers like catalog order centers. These days, headquarters, technology operations, much more high-end. We still see manufacturing because of our location, but it's this really evolution of this economy, which I think is good because it helps create higher-paying jobs and not just any jobs. So activity is great. If we landed every deal we're working on right now, it would create about 15,000 jobs. And that's just at this point in time. So Nashville is in a very good competitive place when it comes to economic development these days. If anybody wants this deck, I can get it to you, but I just thought I'd touch on some of the companies who have announced recently because they're very representative of what's going on in this economy. Number one, I'm sure you all read, and I think the head of HCA was here last week, that deal going on West End with Parallon and Sarah Cannon Research, that's going to be one of the biggest economic development deals in America this year. That's something we don't need to take for granted, that those are 2,000, 2,500 incredibly high-paying jobs that are helping to build that image that this is the Silicon Valley of healthcare. It's just the truth. But that was a really, really major announcement. We picked up a little headquarters from Denver, which is just east of the Swiss Alps, according to my latest geography lesson. But a company, American Blue Ribbon Holdings, acquired O'Charlie's Restaurant and a couple of other restaurant chains. They could have kept that headquarters in Denver, and Denver has an amazing quality of life. I mean, it really does. You got the mountains and all that, but they decided to put it in Nashville, Tennessee. Again, another great headquarters story. And the one on the bottom here, I won't belabor these, but the one on the bottom is really my favorite recent deal, because my team, we get so involved with these companies, we just kind of live their lives. And you may not know this, but Nashville secured a manufacturing facility for the second largest beef jerky manufacturer in the world 2 months ago. Yes. I don't mean to joke. It's a company called Oberto, and they are going over on Sidco Drive, and it's an international company. So I just laugh because we are eating so much beef jerky in my office. It's like everybody's like running around gnawing on beef jerky these days. But what's kind of neat about it is you see that it's a variety of companies. It's not one kind of company coming from one place. They're coming from all over the country. They're coming from all over the world. And they're coming for different qualities and attributes. So we've got a lot of success. We're seeing some counter-cyclical trends. We have landed some major large office users in our downtown area over the last year. So Asurion bringing these 600 technology jobs just across the park here. There's a company called ServiceSource that's up in the old Third National building. And I got to tell you, if I was young and single, I would go to work for that company, because the most gorgeous, single, hip, cool people in Nashville are working for ServiceSource up the year. They came out of San Francisco, and they wanted to be where the action was, and they came downtown. So in some cities, you're really just seeing kind of the suburbs doing well, and the downtown's not. Here, we're seeing a real insurge of talent downtown, which we think is great. Now, I work the 10-county region, so I'm as liable to be on a roof on an industrial building up in Clarksville as I am downtown. But I will tell you this. In many ways, the downtown of Nashville is sort of like the heart of a human body. And if the heart's not healthy, the whole body is not going to be healthy. So promoting downtown as a 24-hour place, I think, is important to all of us, even if you do office in Brentwood or Dixon or Wilson County. So that's kind of a little bit about the regional approach. So last year, if you total up the companies we worked with, it was about 11,000 jobs. And those are just the companies that my team touched. So we're really back to pre-recession levels of creating about 25,000 jobs a year. And you know what? That's good news, because it fills office space. It helps Ed with his cleaning company. It just goes down the whole spectrum. So we feel like things are bouncing back, and we feel pretty good about it. Who did not read the New York Times article about Nashville? Get online and find the New York Times article. So this was kind of, we're always trying to get great national media exposure about Nashville, because I'm paid to be upbeat. People can be a little suspect to the Chamber of Commerce girl, but when a CEO picks up the New York Times and it says Nashville is the it city in America right now, the impact on decision makers who read the Times, that is a huge thing. And it was really the culmination of about 100 articles that have run about this city. We have been everything from best cities for careers, best city for startup. We were the second manliest city in America last year. I'm sure it's because George Armistead is here. Otherwise, we would have been first, right? I mean, he might have brought us down there. So. It's just too easy. It's too easy. Sorry. That's what you get for telling them I'm turning 50, George. But honestly, I actually got a call from a magazine yesterday, and it hasn't been published yet, but top 10 cities that California companies want to move to in America. Because California, the tax situation there, it is easy picking in California right now, and we're doing a lot of that. So again, the momentum is behind this city right now for a lot of different things. The restaurant scene, I mean, you just go on down the road, and having a little ABC Wednesday night TV series does not hurt to have those beautiful skyline shots every week. So we're at a really good time, we feel like. And those are just a couple of the rankings. But I want to touch on this marketing campaign that we launched, because I think a lot of people, unless they're really in the technology business, this may not be on the radar. But about a year ago, we had a bunch of large employers in town come to us and say, we can't find enough technology workers. I can't fill my systems analysts, my coders, my developers, my programs, my help desks. And as a result, we're seeing corporations are putting jobs in Atlanta. They're putting jobs, Clint Smith at Emma put a technology development shop in Portland, Oregon, purely because he thought he could get the talent. Or they're doing what George Lazenby at MDON is doing. They're putting them in India. They're taking them offshore. And they don't want to do that. So we brought a group together of about 20 big companies who really feel the need to look at it. And what we found is, and this is Nashville Technology Council data, today there are 836 open technology jobs in this town. So that's almost the size of a Nissan headquarters, that if we could fill those jobs, what would that do for this economy? And the really scary thing, and Joe and I were talking about this, is it's taking upwards of a year for some of these positions to be filled. And I got to tell you, that's bad economic development news if you want to be generating high-paying jobs. So we put together a task force and came up with the Work at Nashville campaign, and wanted to kind of share it with you. Now, there's a whole lot of work going on in the space, and the ultimate answer has to be the education system of America has got to start turning out more supply. Because the reality is, they're coming out of the university systems, and we are not doing that in America. The other thing is, this is not a Nashville issue. It is a national problem. Virtually every city, outside of maybe Silicon Valley, is struggling with this. So there's a whole lot of great work going on. But what the Chamber was hearing from employers is, look, we believe that we got to build the education piece, but I can't wait 4 years, 6 years to solve it. HCA's got a couple hundred open technology positions right now. So that's when we said, let's do something as a short-term marketing solution to try to get more of the hip, cool, young people like your newest member. I don't know what your background is, but you're hip and cool. You seem to be the target. So, but how do we position... God, I'm a mess. I always get in trouble with this club, George. But how do we position this city for bright, educated technology workers and have them move for those positions? So that's what the Work at Nashville campaign is all about. A lot of work was done, a lot of research, because if you can look at me, I am not a 28-year-old tech hipster. I'm so far away from that. So we really did a lot of focus group work to talk to that audience and say, what's important to you? Why aren't you coming? What are you worried about? And so that's how we developed this campaign, and we learned a lot of really interesting things. So what it came down to is we came up with a four-pronged strategy that we just implemented a month ago. And there were 4 things we're going to do, and I'm going to show those to you. Number 1 is we had to get a consistent message about Nashville as a technology place. Because if you think about Austin, Texas, that's the one we're up against the most. And I can tell you, if we're going after a headquarters, chances are about 90% they're looking at Austin, Texas. It's just who we go head-to-head with. The other is Raleigh, Durham. Those are the 3. And when you think of those 2 towns, I don't know about you, outside of Austin being weird, which is a great brand, you guys, for tech, you think about smart people, right? You think about smart, educated people. So what the employer said is, give us the message. Tell us so we can all be consistent in how we portray the city. So a messaging strategy was number 1. The second was, give us the tools to pitch. Give us a pitch deck, because every day in the world over at HCA, some recruiter is talking to somebody on the West Coast about relocating here. So we created something called the playbook that I'm going to show you that's around that. The third piece was, what we're hearing from the customer is, so a guy sitting up in Boston comes down to take a job with Cat Financial. His concern is, okay, I hope that's a great job, but what if it doesn't work out? Are there other technology positions? Is it a big enough pool so that I can be mobile? So the answer to that was, find a place to aggregate every opportunity in town. So if you're a tech guy sitting out in, Boston, and you just want to move to Nashville, you can go to one place. So we've done that. And then finally, this isn't a big billboard campaign. I can't see us putting billboards in Times Square that say, move to Nashville. What we found is, let's get the technology leaders of this town to leverage their own networks to reach the audience. And that was the fourth piece of it. So thus the Work at Nashville campaign was born. We figured out very quickly we need to tell the stories of these people, because people want to look at the city and say, my people are there, right? Are my people there? So we profiled Clint Smith with Emma, Hannah Paramore. We profiled about 60 of the technology leaders in this town in the campaign, and we created this thing called the playbook. And it's really quite beautiful. I have thousands of them in my office if anybody's interested. But what this is anybody in your company that's talking to a tech worker, if that person says, well, I hear I'm moving to the all-white South, I'm worried about diversity, you can flip over to the pitch deck on diversity. So it's essentially a guide for companies to use to recruit talent so that everybody's singing off the same sheet. So would love to get these into your hands, into your company's hands, because it's going to create the consistent message that we need about the city. The other cool thing that we're really excited about is the workatnashville.com website. What we found is we've got to have a place to aggregate those jobs. So we launched this 1 month ago. We have gotten 816 open technology positions posted on this site today. So if anybody's sitting anywhere in the country or the world, they can come to this site and see the whole suite of opportunities. So that's what that's about. Here's the other cool thing though. If I'm that guy sitting up in Toledo and want to move here, I can post a simple resume. It goes out to my LinkedIn page and harvests all my data, puts it on the site, and then it's a two-way matching system. So that person knows that their resume is going to be viewed by all of those employers. So it's really kind of a matchmaking service as well as telling the story about Nashville. So that's a really cool piece of it. And then the marketing campaign is really a digital marketing campaign. We lined up 100 of the top thought leaders in Nashville and technology and said, will you be our storytellers? We counted their contacts in their social media networks, their Twitter feeds, their Facebook pages. That 100 group touched 435,000 individual people across America. And so we're using them as our emissaries to push out messaging almost every day, which is Nashville is a tech city. Here's a Nashville tech story. Here's a fact about no income tax in Tennessee. So we're using it through digital marketing purposes. So I will tell you, we studied all over the country to see if anybody was doing this, because I don't know about you, I always like to borrow from the best if you can, right? And what we found is Austin has done, Durham has done a marketing campaign, but isn't doing the web tool. So we feel like this is going to be the most robust marketing campaign that any city in America has done. And it's not just going to help us with people, it's going to help us with companies. Because I look, and this is something, my father was a precious man. George knew Dad, and he graduated from Vanderbilt right after World War II was over. And when my dad got out of Vanderbilt, you could have sent him to any city. He was going to go work for Vic Chemical Company. It was about the job. He didn't care where it was. He was going to go work for that company. Fast forward today, Kids coming out of school today are saying, hey, I'm going to pick my city. Quality of life's important to me. I want to be in a place that's cool and hip with other people like me. They're picking their city first and then going for the job, which is why the whole 50-year-ago smokestack chasing, let's get the company and the people will follow, the model's changed because the generation today is picking their city and then the company. So we feel like this is a fundamental shift in how to promote a city, get the people, and then the companies will follow. So last slide for you. We're kind of excited about this. As you can tell, I'm jacked up about this. I've been spending a lot of time on it, and it's been a long time coming. After 1 month, we have got 810 positions posted, which far exceeds our hope. We have had candidates from 22 states come and post their resume on this site, which for a month we feel like, so we've got about 350 people who've said, I want to move to Nashville, I want a tech job, and they're spending, I think there's 200 of them that have been back to the site 15 times each. So we are, for 1 month in, really excited about it. But I have something to ask of you, because for this to be successful, it's very much a grassroots effort. So what we would like to ask is, use this playbook. Give Katie your card. We'll send them to your office. We want everybody singing off the same songbook. And this is it for technology talent. Number 2, go out to that site, and if you've got one technology position open, post it. You can put your company profile, you put your company logo, but we need the stories of Nashville business being told to the audience. And then the final thing is, just push the word out. If you want to be one of our advocates, but we want Nashville to be seen as a leading innovation and technology city in America. Because at the end of the day, there will be no companies that are not tech companies by the time it's all over, because that's the way the world's going. So that's our Work at Nashville campaign. We're really excited about it. And I am done and going to take questions from the lady in the pretty purple sweater. Just like mine, I know. We look like twins. We look like a girl group.
This is one of the top 3. There's 3 a year in this one.
Okay. Oh. Yes, I love the microphone, as you all know. And one of the things I repeat probably every year is I've drunk the Kool-Aid. It used to be live, work, play.
Right.
And until recently, I got to do all 3, now working in Franklin. A couple of questions. One is from the live, work, play piece, and I've got a couple, so
sure.
Bear with me. So the live piece, we live in Rolling Mill Hill.
Yep.
And everybody always says, where do you grocery shop? And it is tough. And I'm just wondering kind of what infrastructure is going to come into play for those of us who are living, working, and playing. We love walking down. Actually, we'll be here tonight for, Preds games. But some of the infrastructure to live as a young couple in downtown aren't there.
That's a great question.
Unless we're going to eat out every night, which we did at the beginning and gained 30 pounds. Second one is, it's probably already there. I just want to actually tell a story. I guess it's not a question. Both my fiance and I are in technology, and he just recruited somebody from San Francisco to come work here. And one of the cool things is being able to provide a better life for families.
Yes.
This individual is going to be paid very similarly to what he was paid in Northern California, where they are only able to rent a very small home. They have children, and his wife's salary plus some of his goes to childcare. She works just so that their kids can be in childcare. And they're going to move here. She's going to be a stay-at-home mom, and they're just thrilled. They're overwhelmingly excited about getting to buy a home, etc. So I'd love one of the playbooks.
Sure.
Because I work for a technology company.
You get the prize today. You've recruited somebody from San Francisco.
Excellent, excellent. And then I guess the next question is, I was surprised on your first slide that there's not a stronger group of people evaluating Nashville from a healthcare perspective. That seemed like a small number.
Good question. Good 3 questions. So on the healthcare side, I will tell you that that's the easiest one first. So that's today. We could get 4 healthcare deals that come in. So typically 30 95% of the deals, particularly on the office side, are going to be in the healthcare space. And it's so easy to sell Nashville for a healthcare company because all you do is you trot out the thought leaders of healthcare in America. You bring Senator Frist and Wayne Smith and on down the road, and they do the selling. So that was just probably an anomaly for today, but typically it's probably 40%. I'm really glad you brought up the neighborhoods piece, because that's another thing in this campaign that we've learned is people aren't attracted to cities, they're attracted to neighborhoods. So you'll see, particularly on the website, we've profiled about 100 to say, okay, here's what's going on in East Nashville. Here's what's going on in Franklin. This is regional. So that's a really important piece of it. I will tell you that the product improvement side, which is what you're talking about, we need grocery stores, we need, that is not a part of this campaign, but it's something we're constantly working on. And particularly retail in downtown Nashville, we're behind. We're behind. There's a new plan that was just issued for the city that projects the need for 700,000 square feet of new retail downtown over the next 10 years. So there's a lot of groups focusing on it. Tom Turner, who's speaking next week, he has a retail specialist in his office, so that's probably a better question for him. Did I answer all three? Good. Okay, good.
Jesse.
Hey, two questions.
Yes.
One, I want to make sure I understand correctly. If selfishly, I've got friends in IT, a couple of them around the country, and I'd love for them to move here.
Good.
Send them to the website.
Send them to the website.
Is that the most efficient way?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Tell them work@nashville.com.
The second thing, I see these stats on your tracking hits and things like that. Is there already something in place that where you guys are getting feedback from the companies that's going to show conversions?
Yes.
How many people have been interviewed? How many people are being... I know you're only 30 days into it, but is that in place?
No, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because the people who sat at the table to design this campaign, they also wrote 5-figure checks to fund it. And those companies are expecting results that aren't process measures, but end results. So our plan is to have a feedback loop from candidates, so candidates can tell us if it came through. We're also communicating to every company that posts a position to say, if you fill one, there's a healthcare company who called us this week and said, hey, we just posted a job that morning and we got a candidate from California that afternoon. We're trying to build a feedback loop. So the reality is, this isn't going to solve the shortage, because it's a lot of things. You can't just recruit everybody from out of town. It's one piece of it. But at the end of the day, we need to judge by how long is it taken to fill. Because having a lot of tech positions open's not a bad thing if you can fill them quickly and employers are happy. So we have a set of metrics, probably 20, that we're tracking, including tech job growth, length to fill, and how it actually worked. So really great question. So others?
Just one more.
Yes, sir. One more.
Make it good.
Y'all are so serious. I got you so serious. What happened?
Well, we've heard for years that there's been a lack of technical applicants for jobs. Well, I've had 4 grandkids go through public school, high school, and all 4, they're 4+ students. They're excellent students, but not one has had any technical training. They all have trained for college prep and know nothing about the technical or mechanical trade.
Great.
Why not interject that in our school system?
You're right. I wish we could stay here all day, because this is such a complex issue, and it starts at kindergarten, right? So we need to be, and there's actually programs. Williamson County is doing a good job in the 5th grade level to try to introduce an interest in the careers. Because to be honest with you, you're right. We're preparing kids to go to college, 4-year college, and a lot of these positions, they don't need that 4-year Vanderbilt degree, and they can come out and make $70,000 a year in these technical positions. But it is truly an issue that starts from kindergarten through K through 12, higher ed, tech systems, and retraining. How can we retrain people who have been laid off from other fields for it? But you're right, if we don't create that love or interest, Because what the schools tell us is we're not finding that many kids who are just dying to become programmers. So your point is very, very good and highlights kind of the long-term nature of it. So, well, you guys, thank you again for having me. I love being here, and have a great Friday.
Janet says she has a minute to stay after.